Welcome to the Startups and AI podcast. Today I'm joined by Sid, who's the founder at BennyPay. Welcome to the podcast, Sid. I would love to learn what you're building at BennyPay for the audience.
Thanks, Gaurav. First of all, thanks for having me, and it's nice talking to you. And I'm very happy to share whatever I have learned and whatever from my experience. Great to share that. Great to be here.
Yeah, so what's BennyPay? What are you building there?
Right. So we are a payments company. We do two things effectively and efficiently. One is we collect the payments for the customers. We call it payment gateway smart router. Essentially, we orchestrate between multiple payment gateways. Our advice to the businesses and merchants out there is that always have a backup service. So never integrate with one provider and have the trouble of them getting disconnected or blocking you. So to facilitate that, that's where we come in, and for every merchant out there, we provide at least two gateways so that they would be able to switch between them efficiently and effectively. So that's the collections part of it, we call it. On the other side, we do the payouts, which is a bit of backward processing also, in the sense that we do invoice processing as well as the purchase order processing. And then using the AI, we extract the data. We automate the entire process of invoice processing for them, wherein we kind of look into the dedicated email box of the merchants or the businesses, and then we extract the data from the invoices. It is template agnostic. It doesn't matter what template you are using. We extract the data using AI, and we read through it. And importantly, we validate the data. We verify that the bank account of the suppliers or the beneficiaries of those invoices are genuine. So just to control the frauds. And then on the back of that, we enrich the data like with GL codes, tax codes, a bit of accounting there. Once we do that, we have something human in the loop process as well. So if you want, we can do 8 eye checks. So up to 3 people can approve the invoices. Otherwise, we'll zip through it. But if you want, you can approve it. Once you do that, then we execute the payment internationally. So not only we do that invoice processing of the businesses, but also the actual payment execution. Once we do that, we reconcile it multiple ways, and then we push the data to your accounting platform. So we are helping we are helping the businesses on their operational processes, avoiding errors, and also ensuring that there are no frauds happening in their area. Right. So that's what we do. One is the collections, and another is actual payouts. So that's what we operate in the UK, Europe, as well as in India at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems like you were talking about like different templates about invoices. So it seems like you've been using a lot of AI, and also I imagine for fraud. So what has been your current experiences with AI, using AI in your business? How has it been in terms of, increasing the speed of development and in terms of, being a core part of the business?
I know. So I think AI has effectively killed the tech as a mode to any of these startups, as you can understand now. It's not no longer about what you can build, but how fast we can solve the problem, how fast we can go out and communicate this with the customers and acquire them, right? So that's the primary one which is happening. In the last 6 months, particularly, I know it has been there for some time, but last 6 months, the lead time for the product development has pretty much vanished now, right? It has never been easier to launch a new feature, but that's a double-edged sword also, as you can understand. It becomes never easier for our competitors or for any of your competitors to copy you, right? So it's pretty easy to build that. For us, it's just not, one more solution. Like we see, it is our base. We built our stack so that we can switch between the LLMs as well with ease for our invoice processing particularly. So that allows us to constantly drive down the costs for of invoice processing for our clients while increasing the accuracy of the actual data which we extract and validate the invoices, right? We aren't an AI native company yet, but we are we call ourselves AI integrated by entire design. So that has been the core to our service, both on the collection side as well as the payout side. So I appreciate that there are a lot of frontier technology companies which are launching the agents to support the finances, financial operations of the clients, but there is a lot of domain knowledge, a lot of specifics, a lot of regulatory aspects which we need to factor to build a solution which can work for the businesses. So we are fairly confident that as much as the frontier, those who own the LLMs are going to be a big threat to a lot of the industries out there, we are fairly confident that there is a lot of scope based on which we, the fintechs, which are domain intensive, regulatory related, will be thriving even in future. However, we leverage the AI for improving the service, for driving down the cost to our customers. So that's how I see the dynamics of it at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's helping with productivity gains, but like you said, it's a double-edged sword. Now, anyone could become a competitor potentially. And then you brought up a really good point that distribution becomes a key thing if anyone can build pretty fast. So, how has what's been your strategy for, acquiring customers, and how has that journey been? I'm sure there have been a lot of challenges, but for new entrepreneurs trying to build, what would your suggestions be, and what was your journey like?
Sure, you asked a couple of questions there. So there, right, let's see that we started as a payout company, as we call it, globe. It wasn't a straight line for us, but that's where we started. I've been there for more than 2 decades in global payments and cash management business. So, and we knew that the banks move at no offense, it is slower place or a glacial place with, and also they deliver the products with which kind of one size fits all type of products, right? So we used to build the products for the corporate banks, for the large corporates, and then offer the same for the SMEs and minimal amount of configuration, etc. So we saw a massive disconnect between how fast the world wanted to move and how slow the business payment rails were actually being developed. Right. So we wanted to fix that kind of friction, particularly. The prob challenges with the onboarding journeys, challenging with the opaque pricing, which we used to have for the businesses itself, the lack of speed. So these are all the challenges which we wanted to see, which we wanted to solve. I'm sure you would have, even today you would have seen it. There is a glaring gap of a cost-effective, a fiat-based solution, not stablecoins one, for the micropayments, right? Which if you want to send a $10 Canadian dollars to you sitting in the UK, it's a real challenge even now, right? So these are the challenges which we wanted to fix. However, we understand this market pretty well. We have been in the payments industry for long enough. But unfortunately, our journey of that product market fit wasn't a straight line, unfortunately. We had to do 2 levels, 2 times we had to pivot, driven by necessity, because the first time when we started with the international payouts, as I said, but when our provider pulled out of their service in the UK because of some regulatory reasons, we didn't fold the business. We pivoted. That's the first time. And then at the time we launched a payment gateway for an anchor client, and we realized over a period of time that the international card collections are just as broken. And we came from the banking, standard SWIFT payments, international payments. But when we looked at the international card collections as well, it's absolutely slow and very expensive, and the process is completely broken as well. So that was what we were learning. And then actual light bulb moment came to us when we kind of started integrating into the backward integration, as I call it, into this invoice processing. And in that process, we realized that, hey, we are the only players offering a kind of a seamless loop of from this purchase order to invoice to payment. I mean, seamlessly and effectively, efficiently, I mean to say that. So pretty much I could claim that we end up being the only provider who can really do from the purchase order to your payout to your bank account as to your accounting entries very efficiently on both sides of it. So that's when the market really started talking to us. So though we face these challenges, it's kind of a continuous learning to us. So a kind of a suggestion to all the founders as well, is there that as much as you may see that you love your features and you fall in love with with what you are building, but try to understand the underlying domain, underlying industry. That's very important. And it is, I'm sure you would have come across, it is quite tempting to keep building these shiny new features, shiny new buttons, etc. But if you don't have a deep visceral understanding of the industry's mechanics, right, you are just guessing it.
Absolutely.
So first of all, find your product market fit. That's very important. And you have to be obsessed with it. And I can talk about fintech. I'm sure, it may be applicable to other industries as well. But in fintech, knowing the rules is very, very important as knowing your code and knowing your features. If you don't understand the underlying regulatory and financial rails, you are not building a solution, no offense, but you are building a liability there. So try to find that and then get on to your, the customer acquisition part, which I said is the important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think having core understanding of the underlying problem of your industry is definitely super important before you even start building features. In terms of, so it seems like you did a bunch of iteration. You said you did some pivots. What was your, I would say, like, what was the winning strategy that helped you? Like, was it fast iteration, experimentation in terms of like the actual steps that people can take? Like, what would you recommend founders to do when they're stuck, let's say, in a place where they've built some features, but now they really want to get that product market fit? What would you say, like how to do, like some practical tips on things to do?
If you found your product market fit, then you are onto something already. But if you haven't, right, and if you are just starting, my suggestion is that talk to as many practitioners and the clients out there before you touch your code as well. As my as we talked about AI enabling the building the products pretty easy these days, but that's not the big deal. That's just 20% of your entire journey there, right? So before you do it, talk to the clients. If you have a if anybody builds out their client-led product, that's fantastic. What I mean by is that, if you talk to a client and they say that there is value in it, and these are the set of features which or some gaps which they would like to be filled, and if you build on the back of that, that is fantastic. That solves a lot more problems for you. But if you're stuck, even after you build something, and you're stuck there, try to see, just never be obsessed or don't fall in love with your product alone. Look at the market, look at where there are the gaps in it, and talk to the practitioners at that point of time, at least, to understand if it still has relevance or not. Because solving the problem for one client is not sufficient and efficient, because you need to solve it for multiple clients at the same time to scale your startup. So it is very important that you talk to a wider set of clients or practitioners before you keep building the product. That's the primary thing which you need to understand. And second is, so as much as AI is enabling you in terms of development, but also it helps you in understanding how do you go about the your entire go-to-market strategy. That is extremely important. Figure that out first, and then before you even actually developing the code. To be honest, that is the important part of the journey, which we all need to focus on. How do we solve the customer acquisition challenge? How do we solve the go-to-market strategy? How do we ensure that we are able to scale the business across the geographies if you can? But that is the important part, rather than keep focusing on the product development alone. So that's how I would see that as the biggest takeaway from what I have learned so far.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Some really great tips there. You talked about stable coins. Do you think that's the future in fintech and payments, or is it still just hype? What do you think the future of payments is going to look like in, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
So, so we have had the cryptocurrencies as the biggest solvers for the various challenges we had in the payments rails, right? As much as we in the industries led by the banks primarily initially, and then a lot of large fintechs also jumped in, have been trying to solve the challenges we have in the payments, which are in the pace at which we deliver the payments, and the pricing of it, the visibility of the payment journey from end to end. So these are some of the challenges which we needed to solve. People came up with the cryptocurrencies, but that is, at least personally, I never believed that that was the solution. For me, it was more of a product which was trying to find the problem. It was like that. But then came the stable coins, and then you have a lot of other variants of it. For stable coins is a great solution, at least at this point of time, for the cross-border payments, but not, in my opinion, not so great relevance it has for the domestic payments alone. So if you go out and pitch the stable coins for your any challenges which you have within the domestic payments, when I say domestic payments, suppose if we are processing GBP payments within the UK, which are fairly efficient, and there is a lot can be done, but it's fairly efficient at this point. There is no point in doing that, trying to fit the stable coins into that journey. But stable coins are great for the cross-border payments. The challenges we had in the cross-border payments or international payments is that one is the pace of settlement. Um, you know, people just try to tell you that, hey, Swift is the problem there. Swift is just a communication mechanism here, and it does it fairly efficiently. Also, if you would be the sending bank. When it goes from one bank to another bank, say if I'm making a payment to South Africa, let us say that as an example, it may not be going straight into it. It goes through something called correspondent bank. So there are a lot of hops the payment takes before it gets delivered out there. At each hop, the sending bank have to ensure that they have sufficient funds made available for executing that payment, for settling that payment, for making that payment to be credited to the the beneficiary out there. So that is one of the problems. How do I sit in London, be able to manage that I have enough funds at any point of time to process that payment? And second is I don't have the complete visibility of that, how much funds I needed to make the available in my account in that country or with my correspondent bank. So these are some of the challenges which we used to have. Now stablecoin is able to address that, because you have a kind of, if I kind of depict it clearly, it's a central place where everybody has visibility into your fund position effectively, right? And at any point of time, I know what my funds are. And second thing is it becomes easier to convert from fiat to a stable coin, and then a stable coin into the destination currency. That there is a prerequisite that all the providers, or the as a sender as well as a receiver, have to have an account or a mechanism of a stable coin there. But this enables them to deliver the payment quicker and also manage the funds much efficiently, right? So stable coins in summary would have a mechanism, if I may say, the features which it has to enable this and address the problems which we have in the international payments. However, there is one challenge with the screening and the money laundering aspects which we need to address as well, right? So that is something which is not fully solved, in my opinion, within the stablecoin world. When the payment is going from, let's say that payment is going from the UK to South Africa again, it gets into converted into from GBP to, say, one of the stable coins, USDT or anything, and then it converts again at the destination from USDT to ZAR, South African rand. I mean, at that point of time, in South Africa, somebody has to screen to say that this payment is a cross-border payment, and has to apply all the screening mechanisms and the money laundering rules to be applied, which are typical to an international payment. If you don't do that, there is a very high risk of those payments, this entire chain being used for the money laundering. So that is one challenge which needs to be addressed. But otherwise, it has the bells and whistles which we require to solve the international payments.
Yeah, yeah, well said. I think you definitely pointed out the right shortcomings. And I think like now with AI, fraudsters or people who want to do money laundering, they have even more tools, like maybe to fake the identity. And now like even with video tools, people can even create like fake videos and fake documents. So how would
Yep.
love to hear your thoughts on that side of things, on the fraud side of things. Like, what do you think AI, is it going to make matters worse? And what do you think is like a long-term solution to fight fraud?
And so there are multiple places where these frauds happen, right? For example, in our case, let's say that in our invoice processing and payout solution, we have lots of controls using the AI, wherein we verify the veracity of the invoice itself and the details of it, and we look at the pattern of those invoices also, and we verify the payee details, and we enabled multiple controls around it. So we are controlling the frauds and leveraging the AI for that purpose. So that is a benefit sort of it. On the other side of it, then you have the, like of agentic commerce, which is coming into play, which fast tracks the entire payment journey. There is a very high possibility that somebody can, imitate you as the beneficiary or the payer of the payment, and then try to defraud you. So there is definite challenge, and the speed at which this happens is something which is another thing which we need to account for. So there are both sides of it. So you have the AI posing challenge for your payment journey, but also you can impose a lot of controls around that using the AI itself by identifying various guardrails. Of course, you put in various guardrails which you put in place, but also you'd be able to identify the patterns in which the payments are initiated, the payments are processed or approved, and but I'm talking about, particularly in the payout journey, which I'm talking about here. You would be able to also see if there is a history of any payments which has been delivered to this particular beneficiary or initiated by this particular beneficiary, or from where they have initiated. So you can leverage the AI to improve the the way you identify the patterns within the fraud. So you have both advantages also, to applying the AI, because so far the technology and the manual process around it, which is the constraint in identifying the frauds, is something which AI can also address, right? So how do we use that is the something which we need to do it. right? How do we
Yeah,
use the
absolutely.
AI for controlling those frauds is something which, which is what the organizations have to, factor.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think AI can be used for both good and bad. And basically, both sides have access to AI. So to fight AI, we need to use more AI. What do you think the future is going to look like with AI? The models are being developed at unprecedented speed. Do you have a prediction for the next couple of years? What would the world look like? How good the models are going to get? And then any sort of predictions?
The pace at which the agents are getting deployed by not only the likes of Claude, but also by various fintechs, right? That is pretty breathtaking, for example. But having said that, I'm not a great sage in predicting, but one thing which we can see, what we noticed is the solutions which we can deliver using the AI is absolutely, there is only no limit to it. It's just up to your imagination. Even the accuracy at which we are able to deploy the AI and utilize it is amazing, right? So initially, when we started using the AI agents for our invoice processing, the accuracy rates were very low. But now it is continuously, we are able to do it more than 90%, just like that, for any kind of template, of the invoices. And also, when we are using for on our payment gateway orchestration side, when we apply that for the purpose of routing the transactions across various payment gateways, there is absolutely no limit at all. Earlier, we used to define what are the parameters which we need to apply, and then you need to deploy those parameters and so on and so forth. Now, AI is self-learning, and it is able to come up with its own parameters and to route the transactions across the gateways. So it is becoming all the more efficient, really efficient, to the extent that we really require any human being to be there to define what needs to be done. So I don't know, probably down couple, not so far away from here, in my opinion, that you would have an amazing set of AI. Forget about the coding part of it here. I'm not even talking about that. That's going to be, as we say that, right? It is the role of development of something is moving away from the IT developers into the product owners. So it is a matter of time, probably, where product owners, the current product managers and product owners, would be able to build the product on their own with either no or very limited involvement of the actual IT resources. That part is given to us. Now, on its own, in the operational processes of it, then AI is becoming all the more efficient. That's what I'm harping on, in the sense that the accuracy level at which they are able to process the transactions, accuracy, they are able to route the transactions, and also hopefully they're able to control the frauds also going forward. That becomes really efficient, and which means that the unit cost of it, in a way, could gets balanced, in the sense that as long as we are able to manage the cost of tokens, we would be able to really drive down the unit cost of processing a payment, at the same time improving the efficiencies in it. And so that's where the directional rate. What one thing which we are doing, by the way, is, I'm a suggestion to even the and other fellow founders also, ensure that you don't rely upon one LLM models, or one company, one model itself, right? So for example, earlier we have been using one provider, one model, but because of they have been increasing the costs of their tokens, so now we are kind of deploying another one. So we should be able to shift the volumes and the processing between these two, and we may deploy some more as well. In the process, what is happening is we are not only improving the accuracy of the processing of our invoices or the payments, but also driving down our costs. So I think all of us who are using building the agents on top of the LLMs, we should be building in such a way that we are not tied to one model. So that is very important, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think like the cost of intelligence is definitely gonna keep coming down, which is good for anyone because now each person has access to a lot more intelligence by spending a
Absolutely.
little bit. Do you think people are gonna just talk to agents and make payments? And do you think agents are gonna take over these sort of decisions? Do you think in a next couple of years that's going to happen where people just talk to their agents and the agents order things for them and make payments on their behalf?
So right, I don't know. I'm trying to So then it is a combination of multiple things, right? AI agents on its own may not deliver the efficiencies and the way which you talked about. It would be a combination of, say, for example, some tokenized deposits or the stable coins, right? So if and the wallets related to those, if I combine those two solutions, then there would be a lot more efficiencies and the speed at which we will be delivering the payments, and there would be a lot of autonomous payments would be processed by the AI itself. But today, if you see that, right, and if you see the entire processing of it on the e-commerce world, if I say we scan through various options which we have in the market and identify a product, and then on the back of that we simply press the button purchase. Then the card on file, the card details which we would have given to the e-commerce provider picks up those details and executes the payment. So that is fairly seamless now. In the similar journey, right, we will be delegating our job of searching for the product to an AI agent. So if I say that I want to purchase a laptop with a specific configuration or with specific purpose, right, for my daily work as well as for some amount of entertainment, then on its own, the agent will search for it and then identify the best possible one. Probably at that point of time, it may want to present the options to us to say that, hey, there are these two options, which one you want to choose, right? Once we submit it, then it picks up the tokenized deposit to my wallet, which is connected to, and executes the payment. So it's simplifying the process a lot more. Do we leave everything to the AI agent? Probably yes, right? Theoretically, yes. What I can sit there, whatever you decide in terms of the laptop which you want to choose, just execute it. You don't need to present the option to me for me to approve. Right. So that is something which is going to come. So there would be the velocity at which the entire commerce happens may change, but we need to build the guardrails around it. That's the important point of it. Suppose if you gave approval for say Gaurav said that, okay, I wanted to buy a laptop he gave the instruction to his agent, it executes it, right? And it went to you, it touched you, it picked the funds from your wallet, and it authenticated as well. So tomorrow, if you dispute it, right, where will the liability sit? You say that I didn't even instruct my AI agent. I didn't even let my agent to use the wallet, right? So where would the liability sit? So those are the aspects which needs to be put in place, right? That's the first thing. So, and then the controls around it, the guardrails around it has to be put in place as well at every level, at the agentic commerce level as well as at wallet level. And then that, whatever you are saying would materialize. Even now, for example, right, if take it for our invoice processing, we say that, hey, the moment we pick up the invoice, we can even execute the payment just like that in few seconds. But we said that, hey, there is a human in the loop in the middle. So I present the invoice to Gaurav to say that, are you happy for me to execute this? Can you approve it? So I'm giving you the control also, because there is every chance that it may be a fake invoice. It may be invoice which you are not happy with it. So there is some history of it which the agent may not know it. AI agent don't know it, right? So we would like that human in the loop at this point of time until you get the confidence that, okay, I completely trust your process, Bennypace agentic solution. Just execute it, right? So it is an evolution of time until you get confidence on it, and until there are controls around it, and the entire liability and aspects are fixed as well. So that's where the journey which we will be seeing through.
Yeah, yeah, I think I totally agree. And there might be some early adopters of this tech, people who are more like open to taking more risks,
Yeah,
because there's definitely going to be, maybe the agent is going to make fake transactions that it hallucinated, or maybe it just didn't have
correct,
enough guardrails. You just said
correct,
buy something for $100, it spent like $1,000. So
correct.
we definitely have to go through that process of evolution, I think. Well, finally, we'd love to hear about, what are the top lessons you've learned, or, if there are any inspiration that you look up to through your entrepreneurial journey. We'd love to hear that, that you can share with some early founders.
Human. And my journey is not that straight line, as we said that. Even, I always had this builder itch, as we call it, right? For though I worked for more than 2 decades in banking, which always said that eventually, you have to live or die in a balance sheet, pretty much. That part I fully understand. But I spent years writing business cases, but never took the leap to start building on my own. In 2014, I co-founded a health tech company, and it's called Medin2. We had an early success, but we fell into all the classic traps. Okay, too many co-founders and no clear roles between us, and many of us were not full-time into it, and then and build it, and then we'll come mentality, right, without a real GTM strategy. So that was the failure of that was a real classic learning phase for me, and it taught me a couple of things, right? Product is just 20% of it. Trust is all about the GTM and customer acquisition. It's all the more now, right? And it also taught me that to build something which is industry, which I totally understand. Health tech, as much as all of us know about healthcare, but I was not an expert on it. But finance and banking is and payments particularly is something which I worked on it. I understand to a great extent. So I now just don't see there are problem states. Not that. That is not sufficient, right? So I understand that there are some underlying mechanics of it, how the industry dynamics works, how the regulations work, and what is the TAM of the realistic TAM of the market. So all those aspects I understand, and now I have that confidence that I should be able to build something and address that. Right. So that is very important. As much as there are problems everywhere, you see that, but on the surface of it, there must be some reason on why that problem exists even now. So try to understand as much as possible. Try to peel the layers, as many layers as possible, until you understand the entire dynamics of that particular market, and then try to talk it out, as I said, with the any experts or the practitioners or the clients, ideally potential clients. That is the second thing. And third is have a very clear go-to-market strategy on how you are going to acquire, and validate that as well before you plunge into it. So that is the step-by-step process which we need to get into it, and it is all lessons learned from me from the initial setbacks which I have had. That is great lessons, right? I know it was sometimes I took time, but try to solve the go-to-market strategy, and try to understand the industry very well before you plunge into it. So that's what I suggest to anybody out there.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's perfect advice. Focus on go to market. And yeah, you need to be like pretty deep into the problem and understand the problem deeply before you start solving things. Sid, it was a pleasure talking with you. All the best with BennyPay. And thank you for sharing all these amazing lessons. It was really nice talking with you.
Gaurav, thanks for having me. It was great. Talking to you and sharing whatever the thoughts, what ideas which I have, and from my experience as well, from my knowledge, from my learning rather. So thank you, and thanks for having me, and have a great life ahead for you as well.